Okay, so I'm just going to show you how to play a line of walking chords through rhythm changes. The result should sound something like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. So, what am I doing there? Well, I'm using a few techniques, some of them very, very simple, some of them not quite so simple, but I'm just going to break it down into 2 chunks. So we've got the first bit, which is the turnaround bit, and in this section of the tune there are 2 changes per bar, so it's 1 chord per every 2 beats. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And obviously versions of rhythm changes vary. I'm using a certain set of changes there. And the B section of the tune is 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4. Much more sustained chords. So I use 2 different techniques on these different sections. So the first thing is when you've got, 2 chords per bar, the traditional way of comping obviously is straight 4s, which is 1, 2. You just repeat each chord, so you play each chord twice, okay? And then there's this Joe Pass sort of form of accompaniment, which is quite popular, which I'll just touch on. So what I'm doing there is I'm playing the chord, but then I'm also using a lower or upper neighbour tone, that's a lower neighbour tone, to slide into the chord. And that's quite easy to do because you just move the chord shape. So the easiest way we can apply that to chords is just to play the chord. So we get this. So we're just coming in underneath or on the top, underneath, on the top, underneath, and it sounds nice, I think, it sounds good. When we come to this bit, I mean, we've got 2 ways of doing it really. There's this 2/5 version, which has chords in root position. So this is best really for chords in root position. And if we go like F minor, B flat 7, and then A flat 6, A flat 7, and often I like to play it with this. This is descending bass line. What it is a B flat 6, 3rd inversion B flat 7 chord, so B flat 7 slash A flat, E flat slash G, so 1st inversion E flat triad in spread position, E flat minor slash G flat, which says an E flat minor chord in 1st position in open voicing, right? And then it's F, and we start walking again. So that, I kind of like that variation just because it breaks it up a bit. Sometimes it's a bit much to have walking all the time. It depends on the musical situation. Sometimes you want to play in 2. And add in those extra passing chords as well. So that really is the simplest technique. Now there's a slightly more difficult technique wherein I can use diminished chords as a passing chord, and we'll come back to this in more detail in a second. So for this, for example, I will have a B flat chord going to, I don't know, let's say G7. So from underneath I can use the fact that if you put a diminished seventh semitone below any target chord, it's effectively the same thing as playing a dominant with the flat ninths into that chord. So D7 flat 9 going into G7 is basically the same thing as a F sharp diminished seventh going into G7. And then we can carry on. By the way, these voicings I'm playing before were very simple. They're just what you might call shell voicings or guide tone voicings. So it's just the root and the third and the seventh or sixth. And if I do the diminished thing with these voicings, I find it's a bit unsatisfying. I don't really like the sound of that very much. So I don't really use it in that context. Now, by the way, if you're coming from above, you can use the tritone substitute. So you can say, if I'm coming from above, well, let's use the dominant thing, F7, so that tritone sub of that is B7, which gives us that bass line going. That G7, right? Like that, right? That sounds good. I mean, in some cases, obviously, if you're going to a dominant seventh chord, it's just the same chord being slid down by a semitone. And sometimes, you know, diminished chords sound really good coming from above. So the classic example is the flat 3. That, for instance, or yeah, then yeah, but you could go as an alternative. So I don't necessarily see these things as things where you have to walk all the time. I see them as passing chords that I can fill in and kind of do little things to kind of spice up my accompaniment, especially in duos, things like that. But also sometimes when I'm playing rhythm guitar and swing bands and that kind of thing as well. Now, I want to move on to what I think is a slightly more involved side of it, which is that we need to find a way of adding in chords, because if we just go 1, 2, 3, 4 for the B section, I mean, if we just go D7, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, I mean that's fine, but obviously if you want to walk, you're going to need some more chords. So you're not just going to have a chord on the leading note as the next one. So you need to find 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 extra chords. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, that's fine, okay? But let's find some other chords in there as well. So one approach you can use Barry Harris's dominant seventh diminished scale, and how that works is, I'll do it in G's, it's easier to see on the guitar. These are drop 2 inversions on the bottom 4 strings, so they might not be so familiar to you. G7, A diminished seventh, right? G7 slash B, C diminished seventh, G7 slash D, D flat diminished seventh. And this is quite an interesting one because we leap from the flat 6 up to the flat 7 in the key. So we go to our, actually sorry, it's not correct, that's right. So third inversion, drop 2, G7 slash F, and then F sharp, right? F sharp diminished. So that scale is quite an unusual one. It runs like the dominant seventh diminished scale runs G, A, B, C, D, E flat, F, F sharp, G. Okay, quite a funny one that. So anyway, so I don't use those drop 2 shapes because they're a bit muddy sounding. I mean, they can sound great in some contexts, but if I'm scomping, I want to keep it to these sort of Freddie Green style shapes. So if I just drop whatever notes on the A string, doesn't matter what it is, I don't worry about the chords being complete, then I can simplify the fingerings down a bit and get a more sort of straightforward kind of grip on the guitar, and it's easier to lead one chord to the next. And also I think it sounds better for rhythm guitar playing. So in the case of the G one, so the shapes are this, diminished shape is always the same, G slash B, diminished shape is always the same, this, again the same shape right up by a fret, and then we've got this, which is just our, third inversion, G7, right? Let's do it on the D7, come down. 7, sorry, not D7. And then, what am I doing? Let's do D7, shall we? Why not that? I don't know what I'm doing. Okay, let's try that again. And then it's supposed to be that. Yeah, that was confused. Okay, the next one. Or, actually, sorry, that's a monk move. I'll talk about that in a sec. And then to C7. And so on, right? I'll keep playing a G7 there, but actually I think it should be a G minor 7th. Yeah, so that could be a little bit more unusual to you if you've not done that kind of work before. It takes a while to work out the inversions. I suggest you do that on your own, actually. It's not that difficult. You can see it also as running each scale line along the length of one string. So if we start on the root, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, flat 6, flat 7, 7, 1. Next string, 3, 4, 5, flat 6, flat 7. And then what I'm doing, flat 7, 7, 1. It's always confusing that bit. Put them together, you've got tenths. As well, which is starting on the 7th. 7, flat 7, right? 7, flat 7, 1. 1, 2, okay. 3, 4, 5, 6. Sorry, flat 6. Flat 7 again. Okay, right, got it. Cool. So that's the usual sort of Barahara stuff. You can just extend that to 3 voices. So that works really well for me. So if I just play through that, how would I use that? Pretty nice, I think. You know, apart from my slight hiatus in the middle there when I forgot what I was doing. But yeah, you get the idea. Again, I wouldn't necessarily use this all the time. You know, I might be going like... Right? So, you know, I'm trying to be a little bit arty about it rather than just, you know, always doing it the same. But, you know, obviously to develop that freedom, you need to spend some time working on that basic exercise. Now, another thing you can do, by the way, for linking things is this classic stride thing, what Alex Kingston calls a monk move. So in the key of G7, you're going G7, diminished on A, B flat diminished, and then that first inversion, G chord, G/B, which is basically an open spread triad. So that, we just add in an extra diminished chord. You can always do that. The reason why this works is because we're linking up to the next chord, C7. So if I do that here, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1. So if I go, I don't know, 1, 2, 3, 4, or, you know, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Like that, right? So I'm just incorporating these two techniques together. This is because you get the basically if you have the chord staying where it is and you want the harmonic rhythm to always alternate between chord, passing chord, chord, passing chord, chord, passing chord, sorry, what am I doing? Chord, passing chord, chord, passing chord, chord, passing chord, chord, passing chord, chord, or strong, weak, strong, weak, strong, weak, strong, weak, strong, weak, strong, weak, strong, right? Strong, weak stresses. But if I play it, you know, if I'm linking up to an next chord, then of course 1, 2, 3, 4, and it's up a fourth. 1, 2, 3, 4. That becomes the strong resolution point. So I need to, if I go 1, strong, weak. I mean, I could do that, but then a nice way of preparing it is just adding in that extra diminished. So So again, it comes down to rhythm, right? It's just like bebop scales, so-called bebop scales, or what we might call added note scales, turning them into, or enclosures or passing tones. It's just that I've extended this principle into many voices, moving in parallel, so it's easier. I mean, you could do other types of movement as well, but for this kind of stuff, that's not really necessary. You know, and you can solo that way as well. So it's like, you know, if I'm going, you know, so I get, sorry, I'm not demonstrating that very well. Oh yeah, honeysuckle rose, right? Country looks like. Okay, so I mean, that kind of stuff actually comes from the same thing. It's just using diminished chords as passing chords, you know, and it's something that's really good to get into, as well as using the sliding around thing. So I'll whiz through that very quickly, but hopefully that gives you a bunch of different techniques you can play around with. The sliding thing is the easiest thing to do. The use harmonising the scale using the Barry Harris, and you can do like minor sixth diminished, and you've got, you know, major sixth diminished. Sorry, what was it? What am I doing? Oh, yeah. Right, and then yeah, so that's how you practice that. Thanks for watching.